Hello, I'm Richard Raffan, and in this video you're going to see how I made this little natural edge bowl. Foot comes straight out of the chuck, so there's no mark on it. It was the right size for the chuck. It's pretty flat, and it was an unlikely looking piece for a natural edge. And we had a few excitements along the way, which you'll see shortly. Got the holes, or where to drill my two holes there. Oh, it slipped off. And where's the other one there? Right, so it's down into the wood, and just make sure that they do actually fit. Yeah, it'll be alright. It's not exact, but it'll be enough. And so this is basically going to start out between centres. And I probably don't want, I've got a conical centre there at the moment, and I'd be better off with a ring centre so the spike doesn't go so far into the wood. It just gives me a slightly more support at the base, I think. Right, so get the spikes into the holes. Yeah, that's it. Use this as a battering ram. Right, the spikes are in the holes, and I really want to adjust this. So I've got the I like to have it's like looking at a saddle. I want the two upper points in the same plane and the two lower side points. So this is going to have to come round there a bit. I'm just going to get a bit of this off, and then I can readjust as I go. Now this, because it's a very shallow dish, will probably, I'm hoping, going to end up looking oval. When you look at it from the top, it'll actually be round. It's a bit of an optical illusion. So start off nice and slow. Right, so the main job here is just get the corner off first, and I'm using this is a 9/16. It's like a spindle gouge, shallow gouge. It's actually meant exactly for this purpose. That's why it was designed. And the bit I'm using is just to the left of the nose. This is dry wood. And because I've got two spurs into the wood, I've got a pretty good grip, so it's not going to spin. I could have done this with just an ordinary 4-spur drive, but it would probably be boring into the wood. So what I'm looking for now is the bark, the lowest point there and the lowest point there. Well, there's about quarter of an inch gap. We'll take it up a bit further, and then I'll know roughly if I need to do much more adjustment. So I want to get this round next. And I want to get a foot on it too. Now, the problem if you're going very hard this way with bark, there's nothing supporting it the other side, so you've got to go very gently if you're going that way. Much safer to come in from the other end, so the bark's being pushed down onto the wood. So come out from here. I'm almost round now. Yeah, I haven't got it pretty well done in the first place. So in this case, I'm going to have my finger underneath the rest and just push the tool in with my thumb. Start to take some of the bottom off. Now I've got to make sure this sits into the chuck. I've recently downsized with chucks, and I can hold 110 millimeters, but no more. So I'm going to be using my step jaws in the small Vic Mark chucks, and I just need to make sure I've got enough. Make sure it's small enough to fit into the chuck, basically. Pretty close, so that'll be alright. Just get away with that. If I can't, you'll see how I get around that. So I'm now, I've got bark there, so I'm going to have bark all the way round, but there's a kind of, the bark got semi-detached there, and it's also getting quite out of whack with the other side, so I've got quite a gap. So I'm going to shift the whole thing that way. And just have another go, a little bit more. Right, that'll be still not quite right, but it's going the other way, but I've got a gap here, so I can probably cope with that. So it's all out of whack all over again. And it's especially out of whack on the base, really out of whack on the base, so I think this is going to have a smaller base by the look of it. Ooh, notice I've lost quite a bit there, so I can now come back, which is almost to where I was, which is no bad thing. From more respect, in fact, to where I was. So, yep, go there. Now beginning to think about final shape, and I'm going to make a cut because this is a 3/8 bowl gouge from the bark down, and really watching the upper horizon up here, because that's where I can see the shape developing. Because I'm going against the grain, I might well be tearing the grain out. Just to get the overall shape. The bottom is going to be at least to there, because that's where it's round, so I'm losing what foot I had. And that, I think it's going to have a pretty funky rim if I keep that wide. So back with the shallow gouge again, you can true up the foot. Now, this time I'm going to actually measure the diameter of the chuck, because this is what I'm going to be using, and I should have some dividers already set. Not quite right, so rather than mess around with those, I'll just set the other ones. Can you see this or not?
Yep.
So don't try and watch two at once, just points at once, just hold one, feel it, and then you can watch the other point. And I can come in very slightly on that. So I'm aiming to grip up in the centre of the jaws here. So the mark I make with the left point needs to line up with the right. It's going to be so I'm going to have to do this in 2 stages. So for the moment, I'm just going to, I've done one of these for a long time. I've just kind of lost sight of what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to make a foot here. So what I really like to be able to do with a bowl is to get it to the stage where I can grip it from the inside so that the whole of the outside is free. So that's what's going to happen now. So that's got the basic shape done. So this comes off and the chuck goes on. Right, and I can accommodate, because of the step jaws, I can accommodate that little lump in the middle, just for the moment. And all I want now is to take enough out of the inside, then I can grip the piece by expanding the jaws on the inside. So still going to be using the, let's get my tailstock right out of the way. 3/8 bowl gouge. And just need this is a 1/2 inch square. Square end, slightly rounded on the edge in fact, but so that the idea is I just need some little steps here so I can get the jaws expanding inside. I'm able to eyeball that, just kind of lining up the outside. Right, still got lots of bark there, so I think I'll go in a bit further. Right, so that means I can now turn this round and complete the outside. Right, now if I want to at this stage I can adjust it if I need to pivot it further, but I think I remember that I think I got the bark just about right here. Well, maybe a millimetre out. So that's going to be that, and I want to get the foot the correct size for the chuck. And there's a mark of the left that lines up with the right. That's it. I usually cut this with the 3/8 spindle gouge, so straight in to start with. Just to establish the diameter, and then I'm going to just use this to go across the bottom. Use the wing of the tool just to shear scrape the rim. Roll it over, take a shear cut back to the middle. Right on its side at the end of the cut, so the nose goes across the centre. It's a pretty good cut. It'll be slightly better if it's shear scraped or scraped. Doesn't feel quite sharp enough. So with a hone. Sounds better. got the little bit out, cut out of the side, so I can just put in a little bit of decoration. Now coming up the side, being ash, it's going to be really easiest to do and safest as far as the bark's concerned, doing it with a scraper. More of a stroker than a scraper really, you don't want too much pressure against the wood. Right, coming up the side further, it's less stressful for the wood if you shear scrape rather than keep it flat, just so you get less, the steeper the blade's tilted up, the less blade you can get in contact with the wood. So when it's up around 45 degrees you can't get more than about 3 millimeters in contact with the wood. And the point of the cut is just where the dust is. Watching what's happening up on the upper horizon, there's a faint kind of blur, there's not much wood going round up there. That looks pretty good. So I've still got this big hole in there, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that. And then the 3/8 spindle gouge to with this one I won't round the foot over, I'll just dovetail it. Very slightly. Right, looking up here I can see there's what could be construed as a slight dip, or it could be a bump here. I think I'll take it as a bump there, so I'll take that bump away. Right, so sanding time, so the outside can be done. Now this is difficult to do if you're hand holding anything, if you don't have any power sanding and you have to hand sand, then you want a rubber block. This is 120. You hold it up. The problem is that as the wood comes round, this leading edge is going to get cut away faster than the trailing edge, and in the end you have a bowl which just doesn't look as though it was turned by anybody who knew what they were doing. It's just a bit cockeyed, so it's better really to power sand that. So if you've got the power, you do that. What have I got? 240. Probably do this at 220. Or 180 rather. Eccentric bits are done with the lathe off, and then the rest have the lathe spinning. I've just got the drill in reverse, so the abrasive is coming up to the oncoming wood. some more abrasive, but I was about to go over to the handheld anyway. So yellow 180. Pulling my hand in onto the standing, so less strain on my lower back. I can feel the bottom of the bark there, so roughly where I am in relation to the bark. Blue 240 grit. Go all the way around the bark. There's little bits of picked out grain, and I can take care of that with the sanding. Final go with the 240. Some boiled linseed oil. Right. I like these bowls to be used, so I assume that they're likely to be washed up, so this is a finish which will come off, although if it never gets wet, then whoever has the bowl can polish it and it'll just develop a different kind of patina. And because it's fairly solid timber, there are no holes on it, I'll put some wax on as well. So this is beeswax. Kind of goes in and then mixes in with the oil. Because when you don't wrap the cloth around your fingers in case you get caught on the by the bark. That, and goes into there. And if you get the foot the right size for the chuck, it shouldn't leave a mark. Now the big question here is, what am I going to do with this bit? And there's a bit kind of missing in here underneath the bark, so my feeling is it probably needs to be a little wider rather than too narrow. So I'll come down to probably around here somewhere, and we'll just see how it looks as it goes. So the main thing I want to do now is to get in past the bark into solid wood all the way around. So I'll drill a depth hole, and I know where I'm going to go there. Now, in order to start a depth hole, probably I'll just do it. I'll probably do it all with this gouges, the 3/8 spindle gouges. Need a hole to get it in there, and then I can just bring that round and push it in. And then I can use my depth drill, which has a number of marks on it, and go in when you've got a bit like this where you're not. It's very difficult. If you've got a flat face, it's very easy to know how far you're pushing in. Here it's altogether different. Maybe I need to do it in relation to the rest. Don't know, I didn't think of that years ago. Or maybe I did think of it and I've forgotten. So that'll be about right. Get a bit more out of the middle. Now I'm going to do that with a square end scraper, which I didn't prepare. This one. And I could get in there with the gouge, but the square end scraper is probably faster. And I've gone deep enough for what would be a thin-walled bowl, but I've gone awfully deep. So maybe this is going to be a thinner wall than I was expecting. Oh, very dusty. So the main thing with these bowls is they look best when the bark is an even thickness, which means that where there's bark you really want an even wall thickness. So I've still got a teeny bit hanging in there where there's where that bit was kind of missing underneath the major bark. It needs to come down just a bit because it's too thick in relation to that at the moment. So that was an error I've got to live with.
Just going to straighten this camera up, get it over close to the right side.
Okay. Right, so we've changed the camera angle so Dave doesn't get frustrated with trying to keep up with the action. So this is now a bowl gouge, half-inch bowl gouge, and people are going to ask, I don't know if it's the inside or the outside, we'll just measure it. Oh heavens. And it is 16 millimeters on the outside, which means it's 2 lines over half an inch. What's that? Yes, just over half an inch. The flute inside is 3/8. They're generally sold as half-inch bowl gouges. Oh dear. Right, well fortunately that didn't carry on and remove the bark. Should have checked that. Oh, dust. Very rarely go into the bottom of a bowl in one sweep. I usually do it with scrapers. And there's a few lines up there. Now, to get those out, it's really better to scrape. But if you're going to scrape with a wide tool, it's really asking for a catch doing it with the tool flat, because there's just too much wood in contact with the rest, so you tilt it up on edge. Then you've got to watch the top edge doesn't catch. Fingers round the back to support the wood. Pretty even all the way around. There's a slight mark just there, so I'll shear straight that. That would probably stand out very easily. I'm just going to go in a little bit thinner there. Then flat on the rest and come around the rest of the way. Just there. So in this case I'll start off with 120. Yes, there's a little bit of kind of picked up grain in there, and probably on this side. Feels rough, it doesn't look too bad. So it's spinning this way and the wood's coming up, so the pads, the sand is opposing the direction of the wood. Lock the spindle. I've got two hands. The 180, still lock the spindle. You're really just doing the wings. That could be doing a better job, so I get a fresh one. I have rather too many old ones here. So really concentrating just on the end grain. caught my finger on the edge there, which was almost very nasty. There is a bit of blood. So I was lucky not to rip the fingernail off there, I think. Always get a bit of excitement on these videos.
A bit of bark off your fingers.
That's right. Yes, well, at least we've got to keep the blood off the bowl. That's the most important thing. And it does give you the DNA, doesn't it? Right, so that kind of gets botted on there, and then I've got a big scrubbing brush thing to kind of buff it all off. The trouble is you can't leave the boiled linseed on to just soak in. You need to brush it off because it goes sticky if it's not taken right off. So, all these things you never knew you needed in the workshop. So I suppose I could spin it first and I'd get rid of a bit. Oh, should have checked for cameras in the way. Okay, so there's wax on this rag as well, so that should do that quite happily. That's good. Right. And that's that, and there's not a mark on the foot because it was the right size for the chap. I think we can live with that.